We have feelings, and that's why we have to be here. Welcome to Notsam Wrestling, a reaction coming right off of the Money in the Bank premium live event, and of course the post-show / press conference that followed it. When I say we have feelings, of course, I mean myself, I mean all of you, but I also mean my guest. The last time she sat with us here in the Notsam studio, it was right after Clash at the Castle. Now it's right after Money in the Bank. Megan Morant is back. Welcome, Megan.
Sam, happy to be here.
Good.
Oh, I'm so happy to be here. I was very excited for this premium live event. I was excited for the whiteout that I was told was going to happen.
You watched the kickoff.
I did. Yep. I watched the kickout. I have my Toronto white vintage Raptors t-shirt on, and no one else wore white. It was not a whiteout.
What a total dork.
But I was ready for it.
I know, and then you came here, you're like, Sam, you're not. And I was like, no.
And I look at the TV, there's no whiteout.
Well, it was an effort.
Yeah, we tried.
It was an effort. And I still think I got it. I get it. The visual of everybody all in one color kind of uniformed would be awesome. And at some point, it's gonna get pulled off. I do love that WWE, and they do it with the noise-o-meter or whatever it's called. Like, they are realizing that part of the attraction to doing these shows in different markets than are traditional, like international markets, are because the fan base is so rabid because they don't get to see shows like this. So I think it is great that they're utilizing the fact that the fan base organically became an attraction. I think after maybe Backlash Puerto Rico is when people really realized, that's when those conversations started happening, when it was like, I can't wait to watch this show because I can't wait to see the crowd.
Yeah, I mean, especially coming off of Backlash in France, right? I feel like every show after that, it was like, oh, we as the crowd need to match that energy, and us as the viewer want to watch that because we want to experience that as well.
So let's talk about this show. Again, this is the Feeling Show. Monday morning, as always, Notsam Wrestling will get more into the analytics of everything. But let's talk about our feelings. Let's start at the very top, okay? Let's go through the show. Of course, we start with the men's Money in the Bank match, and we'll talk about it all, by the way, because we watched the show together, and I mean, between you, me, and my 7-year-old son... watching John Cena. Who would you say? All right, Megan, you witnessed it, okay?
I did.
You witnessed it. Who was more upset? Who was consoling who when John started hinting that he was retiring? Was it me consoling my son, or was it my son going like, well, Dad, we're going to still be able to see more matches, right? Who was more grief-stricken?
There was a little bit of both. I think you guys were consoling one another at the time. But I think your son initially thought, like, this is it forever. And you're like, no, bud, we're going to get a whole run of this.
But was I talking to him, or was I really trying to tell myself?
I think you were telling your inner self. Like, don't worry. Okay. It's going to be okay.
Because he's like, I'm not, I know. I heard.
And then you were like, and we can even go watch old matches.
I did say that.
Like, he didn't ask for old matches.
There's so many good ones, though.
But we can watch them all.
Yeah. He's like, all right, Dad, I don't know if I had that kind of time. And then, and I have a lot of feelings about the Drew McIntyre cash-in, because I have been on the record of being very anti-failed cash-in.
Yes.
And protecting what the Money in the Bank briefcase is, because I feel like if that rate of success is not extremely high, then every time a failed cash-in happens, the stakes are theoretically lessened for the next... It's no longer
life-changing.
Right, necessarily. It could be life-changing now. There was a time where it's like, oh, no, you get that briefcase, it's going to change your life.
Of course.
As opposed to, it could change your life. But I've got feelings. Okay, so let's talk about the match with the briefcase hung above the ring before we get to the cash-in, right? Between a good spot for Carmelo Hayes, Andrade, LA Knight,
Chad
Gable, of course, Jey Uso, Drew McIntyre. I will say, towards the end of the match, Gable's feats of strength throughout this match. It was one thing, deadlift, German suplexes blow my mind always.
Yeah.
But when, you knew exactly what I was thinking. When he picked Drew McIntyre up off the ground and successfully Germaned him, I was like, this is a freak, Chad Gable.
I mean, no disrespect to Chad Gable, but he is, a fraction of the size of Drew McIntyre.
It's not only that, no disrespect, it's a compliment. Look at what you did.
Yeah, he's a fraction of the size, and he's able to pick him up in that way and hit the suplex. I was amazed by the strength of Chad Gable. And then when he's hanging from the briefcase.
Oh, yeah, when he was hanging from the sky. Now, that's a position that we've seen, like, Jeff Hardy was famously in that position in the TLC match. And then Edge ended up jumping off of a ladder and spearing him in midair.
Oh.
But you just see, like, I felt like, and I would have to go back and see how long it was exactly, but it felt like Chad Gable was up there for a solid 20, 30 minutes. Like, he just wouldn't let go. And I was like, man, I don't know what the plan is here, but if it was up to Gable, I feel like he could just hang there all day if need be.
I thought he was going to start doing pull-ups. This guy's an Olympian.
Yeah.
He's strong, and he could hang there a long time.
And I was wondering if Jay was going to try like get up on the top rope and try to spear him off or something like that. But I did love, first of all, the fall. Like the fact that he took the fall and landed face first flat on his torso. Like I just the pain of that impact hitting your like chest and belly first. And then he pops right up because that's the spot, right? Mm-hmm. He pops right up. And I really liked that Jey Uso had kind of seen him and, logically thinking, well, he's going to fall. So I'm going to be ready over here so I can pick up speed around there and boom, get him. And that's what he did. He almost like a snake was ready for him. But Gable taking that fall and then popping right up was as impressive as anything else he did in that match for sure.
I agree with that. And then Jey Uso about to climb the ladder, and I'm thinking, oh, this is Jay's time. Now,
yes.
We had talked about it before, and we both thought that Drew McIntyre was going to win. But I could see a scenario where Jey Uso wins the Money in the Bank. So I thought, this is it. And I was very happy for Jay because the crowd was behind him the entire way. Yeah.
I remember we were at Raw Talk on Monday as we were watching the end of Raw right before we went live when Drew McIntyre said to the camera, I'm going to Money in the Bank and I'm leaving with the world title. It wasn't leaving with the briefcase. I'm leaving with the world title. I was like, oh, Drew's winning the match. Because at first I was like, oh, Punk will stop him from winning the match. But then when he said I'm leaving with the title, I go, oh, Drew's winning the match and Punk stops the cash in.
Yeah,
that's the move. But you're right. Up until that point, I was like, okay, Jey Uso makes sense to win.
Yeah.
And I thought it was a really, just the way it was shot, like tight, so you couldn't see what was going on below. A really effective, and they were really effective in the women's match too with the fake out victory.
Definitely.
And those are so difficult to do just because there's so much going on.
Mm-hmm. We were nervous in the men's Money in the Bank ladder match because there was one ladder that
the leg was like shaky.
Yeah, the leg was shaky, and we kept recalling back to WrestleMania and that ladder match for the tag team title. Our Truth ladder was a little bit shaky.
Yeah.
So we were a little nervous there, but they pulled it off.
They did. Oh yeah, they absolutely did. I thought it was great. I was surprised, I guess, because so much conversation had been. So Drew McIntyre ends up winning the briefcase after we get the Jey Uso fake out, which was great because it added even more heat to Drew McIntyre, meaning we almost got what we wanted. We almost got this super good guy winning the match, and then at the last minute, you bastard, you stole it from us. So I think it got the reaction that they wanted with Drew. I do wonder, though, it feels like with Jay, and I don't know if maybe he's got bloodline stuff in front of him. I don't know if maybe there's a Jey Uso versus Sami Zayn good guy program that we could do.
I would love that.
I think it would be great. But I feel like the story of Jey Uso for the last year or so, save for WrestleMania when he beat Jimmy, is making it all the way to the top and then losing. And you could take it back to SummerSlam, right? making it all the way to Roman Reigns, and then losing. Making it all the way to the Intercontinental title and Gunther, and then losing. Making it all the way to the King of the Ring, and then losing. Making it all the way to the Money in the Bank, and then losing. Do we worry at all that we're getting to the point where it's like, when do we get the success for Jay?
I think we do have to start worrying about it, right?
Yeah.
Because we can only say Jey Uso's been impressive since he's been on his own for so long, right? Him going on his own is one thing, and him creating his own path and getting the crowd behind him and having everybody on their feet saying yeet, that is fun to watch for Jey. But at some point, when does Jey have his moment?
Right.
At some point, when does Jey win a title? And
it's interesting because I can't exactly pinpoint when that would be. It's almost like if Braun Breaker had beaten Sami Zayn, then maybe that's the path Jey goes on, right? That he has to rebuild until finally gets a match with Braun Breaker. Maybe Jey Uso's the one to beat Braun Breaker or something like that. But he didn't beat Sami Zayn, so which we'll talk about in a second. But it is interesting because I do think it'll happen because there's no reason to build this much sort of this level of good grace with the fans unless you're gonna okay, there it is. There's the moment you've been waiting for. And I don't think it has to be the World Championship. It can be the Intercontinental Championship. If he were to be on SmackDown, it could be the United States Championship. It just has to be that solo championship. And I think at some point it'll happen. It's just interesting to think about when or how. I think it was also interesting that with everything going on in this match, with Drew and Punk, with LA Knight and Logan Paul, with Chad Gable and Alpha Academy and the Wyatt Six, there was no, I think some of us, myself included, wondered if it was everybody was going to interfere. That person's going to get screwed and that person's going to get screwed. But there was no interference whatsoever.
I thought for sure Logan Paul is showing up, without question, right?
Yeah.
I thought there was a chance Wyatt Six gets involved. Who do they get involved with? I don't know. Is it Chad Gable? Is it Jey Uso? Who is it? I mean, I thought without a doubt there would be some sort of interference in this matchup. We didn't see any of it.
None. And honestly, it made for a better match. Sometimes it's what I like about what's going on now is that sometimes it's okay to have all these elements going, but at the moment, this is the road we're going down. Not every single thing has to be addressed every single time. Meaning, none of that tension with any of those parties goes away. We tune in on Monday, and Gable is still dealing with everything Gable was dealing with. We tune in on Friday, and LA Knight is still dealing with everything that LA Knight was dealing with, even though it wasn't addressed. So it's we got to streamline this story, put the attention on what the attention should be on Saturday night, and we're not losing anything from these other stories anyway. You know what I mean? I think it's a good thing.
Yeah, and I kind of even thought to take it a step further, maybe we would see something more with the Judgment Day. Maybe we would see something more with Finn and JD and Dom and Liv Morgan. I thought that could come into play later on as well. But you're right. I mean, you always do say let them cook.
Let them cook.
That's what we got to do, because those stories aren't going away, right?
Exactly. And we'll get to it, but the Seth Rollins CM Punk interaction is more evidence that everything counts.
Yes.
It's not going away. No. It's not forgotten.
We all remember what happened at the Rumble.
Exactly.
Just because it didn't pay off yet doesn't mean that it's not going to.
Right. It's all still there. Speaking of paying off, how about Sami Zayn? Just getting a straight up victory. Right? Now, I think, I don't remember if I think I did say that the Bloodline was going to win. I think all my predictions were true to an extent. In this Sami Zayn Braun Breaker match, I didn't think Braun Breaker was going to leave with the championship. Even though there are opponents for Braun Breaker as Intercontinental Champion, just the idea of somebody who is on the ascent, right at the beginning of that ascent, now also being tasked with being a defending champion, is a more difficult thing to pull off. That's the only reason I didn't think he was going to win the title. I thought there'd be interference. I thought there'd be, but I guess the fact that there was like chicanery in the world title match makes it tough to do that in the Intercontinental title match too. But ultimately, a haluva kick caught him. He was awesome, Braun Breaker, but the haluva kick caught him, and Sami Zayn pins him 1, 2, 3. And that what's interesting is that Sami Zayn's story, and he addressed it on the post show, is this idea that for some reason it's still Sami's not going to do this one. Sami's not going to do that one. Sami's not going to do that one. His luck's going to run out, whatever it is. But if you pay attention to the story, especially now, especially coming off of WrestleMania, it's like it's almost enough to start building somebody to becoming a villain. Where you're going, when are you? I don't think Sami Zayn's going to turn. But you do have to question, like, when are you guys going to have faith in me? What do I have to do to make you believe that I can win? I just beat this guy.
You just beat Gunther. I beat the longest reigning Intercontinental Champion, and you all still have doubts.
Right.
I mean, we saw the run that Braun Breaker has been on. You know, he's been causing chaos throughout Monday Night Raw. So going to this matchup, it's like, how does Sami stand a chance against someone who's been taking out superstars left and right?
Right.
In Braun Breaker, but it's Sami Zayn. And that's what he does.
Yeah, yeah. And I think, too, he's just so good at telling that story, like taking you on that ride. And at the end of it, getting to a place where, like, you don't feel like Sami was booked to win. You're on board for this story where you're like, yeah, that's how he did it. Like, he's been in every conceivable wrestling situation, and he found his hole, and he got it, and he hit it. Like he tells that story of beating the unbeatable. There may not be anybody better at telling a David and Goliath story. Because even though Sami's not a small guy by any stretch, you always get that Goliath feeling. Even Chad Gable felt a little like a Goliath when he was in there with Sami. And it's interesting, too, because before Chad turned, people were like, why is Sami going to WrestleMania instead of Chad Gable? Mm-hmm. And then they were like, why is Sami beating Chad Gable? Just put the title on him. And it's like, no, just let him cook.
Yep.
And see where we're going, and we're in this whole new world where I do think that the decision was effective, because I don't think Braun Breaker loses anything. I think he can go and keep running people over on Raw and still be the man. And I think Sami, even at this stage in his career, even after everything that he's done, has become an even more believable, viable threat.
And I think Braun even gained something from this, right? I mean, he is still very new to all of this. He's in there with one of the best in Sami Zayn, and Braun looked fantastic.
Yes, and he looked fantastic in a match where there was a lot going on. It wasn't a two-move match. He's like, the timing of Braun is so good for somebody who's that young, like knowing, okay, I'm lightning fast. And there's, I think, this like thing where I feel like if I was lightning fast, I just want to immediately go in there and do it as much as possible so that everybody could see how fast I am. You know, I'd be super happy with myself. But Braun sees the value in it, I think, and has been taught the value, I'm sure, and knows when that moment is to all of a sudden hit that rope and start zapping back and forth. It's really cool to see. And to see him grow. It almost seems like he's grown even since April when he got drafted.
Yeah. I have news for you. I don't think that you need to do a paternity test whatsoever, because I was watching this match with your 7-year-old son, and I said, Braun's going to hit the spear. And he goes, wait, that's Roman Reigns' finisher.
He's right. He's right about that.
And I was like, this is Sam's son.
We're bloodline in this household.
Yes,
we're bloodline in this house. Yes, we acknowledge our tribal chief in this household. So shout out to Sami Zayn. Sami Zayn retains. And then our hostess with the mostest, self-proclaimed, Trish Stratus comes out and goes, hey, but you guys didn't know this. Here's John Cena. And we're like, what? What? And John Cena comes out, and I swear, and you know this is true, I read his T-shirt, and I'm like, no. It says, like you can't see me anymore after this, or whatever it says. Like, after this, you won't see me.
Well, first you see the new T-shirt, and it's like, oh, he's got a whole new package, new merch. This is a great idea. Then you look closer.
What's he saying?
You can't see me anymore?
You won't see me? What do you mean? And I got real emo. I got real upset. I wasn't ready. I tweeted in all caps. I got sad. The idea that John Cena is leaving us, I don't want to live in that reality. But then he's talking, right? And because at first you're like, no, because he's done interviews where he's said, he said in every interview, I'm getting ready to wrap up. I'm getting ready to end this thing. And he starts saying, like, why here? Well, Toronto this, Toronto that. Why now? Money in the Bank. It's the land of opportunity, blah, blah, blah. And it sounds like he's saying this is the goodbye speech.
Yeah.
Which I was terrified of. I'm not ready for that. I haven't prepared myself for it. I'm just not ready for it.
Well, okay. It seemed very out of the blue. And I know Toronto and the Scotiabank Arena in Canada is very special, especially in professional wrestling. But I was like, he can't be doing this right here, right now.
No.
Today.
Plus, he hasn't given me enough heads up. Yeah. Me. Specifically, and not, hey, Sam, just so you know, in a week or so, I'm going to be doing this. Maybe start thinking about it. Maybe watch some old stuff. Maybe whatever you need to do to get through. And I don't even know if that would be enough time. But also, God bless Toronto, but you would think there are two places that, well, I mean, I guess there are more than two places, but Boston would be the spot.
That's what I was
for John
thinking.
Cena. He's had amazing Madison Square Garden moments, but Boston would be that spot. However, thank God, I breathe this sigh of relief, and I'm an eternal optimist. I look at the positive side of things. And John Cena starts talking, and he goes, because the 2025 Royal Rumble will be my last Royal Rumble. And the 2025 Elimination Chamber will be my last Elimination Chamber. And I'm like, oh, wait a minute. We get more John. And he clarified in the post show at the press conference that he answered, actually, I wrote it down, 800 questions were asked and answered by John Cena, 800. And
he kept asking for more.
Well, 6 were good. So, you got to keep going. But John Cena made it clear that he's here for 2025. He's coming on board, which is a big deal. He put over Netflix Raw, and he said he'd be there for Netflix Raw, which is the first Raw of 2025, and that he was going to be with WWE throughout, which is very, very exciting. And I think on the Monday podcast, we'll get into all the possibilities and everything, because now you can really tell stories. We're not just going to WrestleMania with a match that we can, have like a quick promo on Raw, and then we're going to go do the match, and then John will be gone. Or, even the summer that he did, right? Where I'm here for these 3 months, so let's have some fun. Like, now it's a year. And I'm sure he's not going to be on every single show for a year.
No.
But straight up said Royal Rumble, he said Elimination Chamber, he said WrestleMania, he said Survivor Series. I don't know if he said SummerSlam.
I didn't hear SummerSlam.
But that's not to say it won't happen. It's just to say those are specifically what he said. So you've got to wonder not just who the opponents will be, because I couldn't imagine that this will just be a year of showcase matches. I would have to imagine that there'll be some macro story that's told over the course of a year through micro stories. You know what I mean? Like short stories that build to one long story that takes place over a year. Like Triple H said, there's a destination, creative is the GPS that gets us there. So I wonder, over the course of a year, is it outlandish to say that John Cena could get another championship?
I don't think it's outlandish to say, and I would love to see it.
I would love to see it.
I mean, we're going to get to see Cena from January to December of 2025.
Yeah.
Plenty of time to give him a title.
That's at least 3 different shirts, by the way.
Yeah.
You have to do at least.
All of them.
And it's going to be great. Everybody's going to buy the new shirt now. And then in January, he's not coming out in January with that same shirt.
No
way.
Chance. He's going to have a whole new setup.
Yeah, that's the retirement year announcement shirt.
Yes.
There's more shirts coming. Yeah, I mean, I think that there's a potential championship. I mean, the idea that, like, we could do another Cena Rock. We could do another Cena Punk. We could do Cena Gunther. We could do. Yeah, I said something there, huh?
Cena Gunther, I want to see it.
Yeah, I mean, if I were one of those, one of the young guys, and not even young guys compared to John Cena, but one of the current roster talent, I'd be like, how do I get in this John Cena story? Like, who do I talk to get on board? How about this? John Cena versus Dominic Mysterio.
Oh.
Come on. What are we, printing money?
Of course, that's where you would go.
I would love to see it. And I think probably John Cena takes the L on that one.
No, wow.
yeah, I think so. I really do. Yeah, I mean, you wonder how deep it'll go. So, yeah, it actually left me very, very excited. And I'm also excited because there's never been anybody that's been able to leave on their own terms to this degree. Say declaratively, I'm here for a full year, and we can really do something for this entire year to send me off in the right way. He said he's done. He's not coming back after this, after his 2025 run, which I'm sure he believes.
But he did say he will remain involved.
Yes.
Probably forever.
I would imagine to some degree. And, I mean, look, there have been a lot of wrestlers that say, every wrestler says that they won't be back, and they are. I'm really leaving. And they don't. But, I would take him at his word and allow this to be. I mean, we could get another Cena Orton. This version of Randy Orton versus this version of John Cena, Cena versus Cody. Mm-hmm. Homelander versus Homelander.
I mean, I think if there's any superstar that really deserves to have the goodbye tour, it's John Cena.
Yeah. And then somebody asked Hunter, Paul, Triple H, Levesque at the press conference. There's a lot of names at the press conference about Cena going into the Hall of Fame. I absolutely do not think Cena should go into the Hall of Fame in 2025.
No.
I think 2025 should be all about that year-long run, and whatever the goal of the John Cena character in 2025 is, that should be what the goal is. And then maybe come back before WrestleMania 42 for a Hall of Fame, maybe wait till 43, whatever it is.
But I do think they should retire jorts in WWE.
I think they should hang them up.
Yeah, I think they should, from the rafters. Mm-hmm. Once Cena is done, you just retire jorts. Like when an athlete, you retire their number. Yep. Cena, you retire the jorts. Forever.
Yes. Forever. And pumps, I think, too.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that what'll be great, though, about doing this run, and then either the year after or after that or whatever it is, doing a second Hall of Fame induction that's not related. You know what the great thing about that would be?
What's that?
New T-shirt. Just for the Hall of Fame run.
I think you wait a little bit, right? You do the
How about a John
tour.
Cena tuxedo T-shirt?
I love it.
Going into the Hall of Fame.
I love it.
I mean,
You need the tuxedo.
You got to, but it's a tuxedo T-shirt. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it could be good.
It says, I'm here to party.
I
want to be formal,
I'm professional,
but I'm
formal,
here to party.
but I'm here to party.
Yeah.
No, you're 100% right. Then we had Seth Rollins' first match since WrestleMania, and I think people took that for granted a little bit going in just because he's been on Raw for the last 3 weeks, but he hasn't been wrestling. This is the first match back.
Well, and also, I feel like we don't acknowledge enough that Seth was wrestling on a knee that needed to be surgically repaired at WrestleMania. Seth did such a great job during that WrestleMania build that we as the audience almost forgot at points that he was injured.
Yeah, did you see that in the doc?
I love that they gave him a moment in the doc to kind of point out everything that he was
with
going
the brace
through.
And everything.
Because there was a couple weeks there where we're like, is Seth going to be able to go?
Right. And they were like, they were like, yeah, we think so. He should be better after Elimination Chamber, but we're going to cut it real close.
Yeah.
And he did a lot at WrestleMania. But before, because I have a point about that WrestleMania doc and how it actually does play into the way this match finished. But we had Seth versus Damian Priest.
Yes.
For the championship. Of course, if Seth doesn't win the championship, he doesn't get another shot at Priest. If Priest loses the championship, he's out of Judgment Day. I like that Seth was wearing ninja pants. Mm-hmm. He had a little bag to him, a little belt on him and everything. That was a lot of fun. He also was another guy. I felt like he came back, his shoulders were massive.
Well, again, he had the surgically repaired knee, and Seth is going to be in the gym, and he can't do legs.
So he's just overhead pressing.
That's it.
Every day.
And you could tell.
He looked great.
He did.
Yeah.
That has been a thing recently. People coming back from injury looking better.
Yeah. Let me just get yoked while I'm gone.
I think that's the standard, right?
I love it. Yeah. I love it. That's what's going to happen with Paul Heyman. He's just going to be Shaq Diesel when he gets back.
Can you imagine?
It's going to be awesome. So, like we had predicted, Drew McIntyre does come in with the cash in. Of course, there was the controversy, the timing issue where the match was a really good match.
It was.
And for whatever reason, the referee saw a kick out that none of us saw. I don't know where the timing, if it was a timing error, where the error was, if it truly was a shoulder that got up that we didn't see. But regardless, the count wasn't counted. It went to 2. Mm-hmm. And then in the confusion, Drew McIntyre's music hits. Yes. And here comes Drew McIntyre, and it's like, yep, we're doing it. We're doing it.
He told us he was gonna.
And it's interesting because I was having a conversation, and they were like, well, because I said Punk needs to spoil the cash-in attempt because he needs to like take something from Drew, right? And I'll get to that in a minute, but I was like, so I guess, because in my mind it was Priest wins clean, finally gets a clean win. And then Drew tries to cash in and Punk spoils it.
I thought the same because it seemed like Priest really needed to legitimize himself as a champion.
I agree. But then in my head I was like, so would then the cash in end on a disqualification? And because that's kind of a weird way to go. So I think that having Drew come in as the triple threat works in a couple ways. It works because that way you don't do there. Now there's no disqualification because it's a triple threat. So Punk is free to spoil it all he wants. And when Priest wins, he doesn't win legitimately.
Yeah.
And I think that the frustration that was all over Priest's face, maybe on a personal level, was the timing issue that had happened earlier. But I think from a character standpoint, was absolutely that he came in with every intention of winning this thing legitimately. Like you said, you're the voice of this fan, who I have the same voice, that goes, yeah, I want to, like, he hasn't won any of his title matches without some kind of help. And I'm ready to see that.
Yep.
And he was ready to accomplish that, and it didn't get accomplished because of Drew and Punk and all the hoopla. And I'm imagining that that's what will kind of be the focal point when Drew comes out of the. I mean when Damian Priest comes out of this on Raw. But to get to, so do you buy that the sentiment that you just had is the frustration that was on Priest's face?
Yeah, I think that absolutely is. Yeah. Because he's trying to prove, listen, he's not a paper champion. He's not a transitional champion. Right. He can do this on his own without the Judgment Day, without CM Punk in Scotland. And, he gets his chance to do it at Money in the Bank. And here's Drew McIntyre, and here's CM Punk again.
I felt like this was, because as I said at the beginning of this, I've always been an anti-failed cash-in. But it depends on what you're doing it for, how you're doing it. I think there's a question that you ask, right? Is it worth sacrificing the briefcase for the betterment of the Drew McIntyre CM Punk story? In order for Drew McIntyre to be so mad that he bombards the post-show panel, that Wade Barrett has to get out of his seat and hold him back, that he's striking officials, that he's throwing an elbow at Adam Pearce, he needs to lose the briefcase that he just won. If Punk stops him from winning the briefcase, that's not the same as having the briefcase and then losing it. If Punk stops him from cashing it in before he has the opportunity to, who cares? He's still got the briefcase. He can cash in literally tomorrow if he wants to. The idea of this whole thing has been you're taking things away, right? Like CM Punk was injured. Drew not only took credit for it, said, I prayed for this to happen, and it did. You know, that's the level that we're at. Flash forward, CM Punk not only screws him at WrestleMania, taking that away from him, because Drew spent all of January to April just poking the bear. Punk comes back and takes away his WrestleMania win by allowing Priest to cash in. Okay. He does it again at Clash of the Castle because this thing has escalated. In response to that, Drew goes deeply personal. Not only attacks Punk at SmackDown, but takes the bracelet. Mm-hmm. Once you take the bracelet, now you're invoking CM Punk's family.
And he even said it last night on Friday Night SmackDown, like, Punk's family is always with me.
Right. Now you're talking about AJ and Larry.
Yeah.
You know, you got the crowd chanting in Larry's defense. It was a big deal. So I think that when you're trying to escalate this to a point, and I said before on the podcast that there were people that felt like you missed an opportunity by not putting the title on Drew in Scotland. And I said you gained an opportunity by not putting the title on Drew in Scotland because it makes the Punk-Drew rivalry bigger.
Yes.
I think that it's worth, and maybe it's just because I love this Punk versus Drew thing so much, but I felt like it was worth trading the briefcase for the equity in this CM Punk Drew McIntyre story.
Now, there will be some people who disagree with you and say that this was a waste of a cash-in.
Correct. And I would say, you're wrong. Let him cook. We're telling a bigger story. We've gotten to a place where Drew and Punk has gotten so big that you could argue it should main event whatever show it's on with no title. Why is it main event worthy? Because there is so much in it. Mm-hmm. There is so much investment now. They have so much reasoning for wanting to absolutely destroy each other. And that lies in the fact that they're like, okay, how can we make this even bigger? What if the briefcase, this symbol of opportunity in the WWE that comes only once a year, what if it is gone because of how deep this feud between CM Punk and Drew McIntyre is? And I think at the end of this, I believe that history will look back, wrestling history that is, let's not be overly dramatic, but wrestling history will look back and remember, man, that Punk Drew stuff was great. They won't go, man, I wish we had a cash in 2024.
I agree with you. And it's been so much fun. I mean, it's hard to believe that this has been going on as long as it has, because I feel like every couple weeks the ante gets up a little bit.
Yep.
Right? What happened in Scotland. Then you turn around what happens on Monday Night Raw and Drew quits. And then you turn around what happens on Friday Night SmackDown. And that unforgettable shot at the Allstate Arena when the garage goes up. Yep. And there's Drew McIntyre holding the body of CM Punk. I mean, that's a lasting moment that we'll have. And then this briefcase that has caused Drew McIntyre a whole lot of trouble.
Exactly. It's
going
poetic.
Back to WrestleMania 40. Now Punk's there again.
Yeah.
I think it's perfect. I know we're going to get Punk versus Drew. And I can't wait for it.
And you can't wait even, I feel like you can't wait even more now.
I mean, it was already good.
Right.
But it's better now.
I would agree with you 100%. We got a holy shit word from Michael Cole. Yep. That's incredible. And then at the very end, Seth, furious at Punk. We all watched the WrestleMania Behind the Curtain documentary this week, days before the pay-per-view. We all heard in that documentary for the first time, Paul Triple H Levesque said flat out, the plan for WrestleMania was Seth versus Punk. That was the plan for WrestleMania. That was the match that we were going to get. Oh, you kind of knew, you kind of figured, you kind of saw it going there, but that was the first time somebody officially on the record said, that was our intention. We know this now. Now this is in the zeitgeist. And now it's paid off by the fact that CM Punk got involved in this match with Drew. And the briefcase, by the way, is not just being sacrificed for the Drew Punk story. There are now more casualties. Because of CM Punk, Damian Priest was not able to win this match without interference. Because of CM Punk, Seth Rollins lost his first match back and doesn't get another shot at the title. So CM Punk has now made enemies of all three people, which and with the pacing I feel like the WWE goes at, we'll get this kind of logical progression of, hey, I'm, Drew and Punk first, but then Seth is waiting for Punk.
Well, I like
and Priest is waiting for Punk.
I like it because it's layered now.
Yes.
Right? It's not just, okay, now that's done, check the box, we'll move on to the next story. I'm wondering, how do all of these elements come together once again?
Love it. Yes, absolutely. You go on to the women's Money in the Bank match after that. I thought Zoe Stark, underrated star of this match. Zoe Stark took some unbelievable damage in this match. I mean, she, I think, realized, like, look, I'm not going to get that briefcase, but I have a major opportunity on a big show to show the world. And there were a couple of moments. I mean, that one off the ladder pile driver thing that her and Io did was like the most bonkers thing that I probably saw in the whole match.
That was crazy. It's right up there with Naomi's split.
Oh, yeah, the split with Naomi between the two ladders into the DDT or whatever.
That was crazy as well. I mean, I feel like Naomi's someone who gets kind of underestimated a little bit. I mean, she's been around for so long. She makes her return back. She's so nice and everybody loves her that sometimes I think we overlook her athleticism. And then when you see her do something like that with the split, it's like, oh, that's why we love Naomi.
The hype is real.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you're 100% right. And then, like we both alluded to earlier, the false finish with Chelsea Green, because of course Chelsea comes out, Maple Leafs adorned. I think wrestling fans everywhere, very early on, kind of fell in love with the idea of this Chelsea Green character winning the briefcase and what that would look like and how impossible she would be and just, entertaining it would all be. And then in Canada especially.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? She's the homegirl there. But there was and again, they got me again because I was like, I don't know, they did this with Jay and I was like, oh, maybe she's actually going to win. She got it unlatched. And then boom, not only was it a great false finish, but the fall that she took off the top of that ladder all the way to the through the two tables, realizing on the way down she better grab the top of her head. Unreal.
And it was interesting too because Tiffany and Chelsea sort of formed an alliance during the matchup where they set up those two tables.
Yeah.
And I thought, why are these two working together?
You reap what you sow.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, they have two of the biggest egos in the world.
Right.
And here they are working together. They're setting up these tables. And then Chelsea goes to fall and it clicks in my brain. Oh my gosh, she's part of the reason that she's falling through these tables.
Yeah. Yeah. And then, of course, it's Tiffy time.
It is.
Tiffany Stratton wins. I think the right call there.
I agree.
I can't wait till that briefcase gets fully customized. I'm sure it's already on WWE Shop. You know what I mean? Yeah. Yeah, I think that Tiffany is a great pick because you can already see her as champion. Mm-hmm. And at some point, that cash-in is going to be successful. Whenever it happens, she's going to pull it off. And the reaction that Tiffany's going to get. They're going to wait. It's going to be the perfect time. And Tiffany's going to come in at the end of a match or just the most inopportune time for whoever the champion is. Get the victory. And, I mean, people are going to go nuts when she wins.
I kind of like this budding partnership between Tiffany and Nia that we've been seeing a little bit on SmackDown. Now you have Queen Nia and you have Miss Money in the Bank Tiffy time. I love their both of their attitudes. I think they'll be very entertaining to watch together. And we have to remember, Tiffany is also a superstar who hasn't been doing this that long. So to have someone like Nia to kind of guide her and be in her corner. However that ends up
right
in the long run, we don't know.
Yeah,
but I do think having an experienced veteran like Nia will help Tiffany.
How great would it be if Nia beats Bayley at SummerSlam?
She could.
Easily. And then you've got Nia as the champion and Tiffany as the Money in the Bank holder, kind of on the same team, but you don't really know if they are. I feel like it's a fun dynamic.
It could be fun.
Yeah, for sure. Your main event of the evening, the Bloodline, which ended up being Solo, Tama Tonga, the right-hand man.
Yes.
And the Samoan werewolf, Jacob Fatu, versus Cody Rhodes, Randy Orton, and Kevin Owens. We got the wonderful stare down between Kevin Owens and Jacob Fatu to start the thing. But man, I mean, if you didn't already know that Jacob Fatu is a killer, you found out, I feel like, tonight.
His debut on SmackDown, going through the table, that long jump, really showed his athleticism at the peak, and he elevated it even higher tonight.
Yeah.
We talked about superstars coming back. Seth Rollins coming back from injury in great shape. Jacob Fatu, I don't know what he's been doing. But he looks great.
Phenomenal. He looks phenomenal. And it makes him even scarier. I mean, that moment, I loved that moment so much when he goes in and he catches the DDT from Randy. And I'm like, oh no, hey now. The dream is over. Mm-hmm. Right? Is this now Jacob Fatu learns that, like, the hard way things are going to hurt in the WWE? And then Randy turns around like he always does. And Jacob Fatu, like, he pops up. He does it in a way, though, where it's like the damage is acknowledged. It's not this, like, complete no-sell of the thing. But he still does get up quick. And Randy doesn't know. And it's not like a cartoon. It's not over the top. It's so... Everything Randy does is so, like, calculated and realistic that Randy, like, turning around and jumping down like he always does, and he's now on the floor. And Jacob is standing over him. And he just slowly looks up. And he doesn't make big, buggy cartoon eyes. He doesn't, do this ridiculous reaction to it. Oh! He just kind of looks up and realizes he's dealing with a different species of beast here. That this is not, I'm going to have to re-strategize immediately.
And that's what Jacob Fatu brings to this new look Bloodline.
Yeah.
I mean, we've been hearing and seeing from Paul Heyman how vicious this Bloodline is.
Yeah. And I think, too, Michael Cole and Corey Graves did an excellent job of making it clear that, like, Jacob Fatu has been wrestling for a long time. And I love that they acknowledge, like, hey, the reason that this guy hasn't been in WWE is not because he's not good. We all knew about him. We all knew how great he was. It's that he has no moral compass. It's the lack of morality that kept him out of this company.
I mean, he could barely get into the country.
Right. It's just such a fun story. It's scary. Yeah. I'm scared.
I mean, and I think that's what he brings to this version of the Bloodline, right? I mean, a lot of people maybe have been critical of this new look Bloodline, but I think that adding Jacob Fatu and watching the elevation of Solo Sikoa and watching the way that they all operated together, Solo Sikoa pins the undisputed WWE champion. And now we're off.
He pins the WWE champion, and, I mean, who got louder boos tonight than Solo Sikoa?
No one.
And when you're a bad guy, supposed to get booed. Everybody was booing this Solo Sikoa and chanting, "We want Roman," which when they're chanting, "We want Roman," they're saying, "We want Roman, not you, Solo Sikoa. We're booing you, Solo Sikoa," which is a good thing because it's effective. I mean, they've tweaked. Solo Sikoa used to be a lot more like Jacob was, and people loved Solo.
He was the enforcer,
right? But they've tweaked his character just enough to now that he's like that sort of young, I don't know, almost like a King Joffrey type, you know what I mean?
He's the head of the table now.
Right.
The tribal chief.
And it's hateable for people.
Your tribal chief?
I'm not ready to say that.
Right.
I bet he's lucky for me he's not in the room.
Yeah.
Because if he was in the room, I don't want to say what I'd do. I don't want to say. I don't want, just in case the Tribal Chief is watching. I know he's a big fan of the show. I don't want to say what I do. We had the referee take a bump, and you always wonder what's going to happen in these Bloodline matches, especially now when the referee goes down. He went down once, and then I was going like, I could see the referee's right there. Why is he right there? And then he gets smashed into the stair. Jacob. I go, all right, that's why he's right there. Yeah. And all the chicanery happens. Solo does end up eating just about every finisher that one can eat. But I mean, that ending of Jacob holding up Cody and leaving him wide open for that spike. And you say what you want about Solo. When that spike hits, that spike still hits. And it was almost this feeling that I really enjoyed coming from the audience of like, not again. Because the Bloodline got to a point where they were so indestructible and winning through interference all the time, never winning clean, but always winning, that it got exhausting. Mm-hmm. I remember by the Royal Rumble this year, when Roman won that fatal 4-way, there was an exhaustion in the crowd where it's like, it's never going to end. Mm-hmm. Okay. And for the first time when Solo pinned Cody, I felt that exhaustion come back. And I didn't take it as a negative. To me, it was like almost like this acknowledgement that today, for the first time, we're starting to get the Bloodline back. You know what I mean? We've got that powerhouse back where you're realizing, oh, we didn't really take him seriously when it was the Tongans and Solo. Maybe we should have. But now with Jacob, now after what they did to Paul Heyman, mm-hmm. and after what they're now have done tonight, it's like, oh, we can't beat the Bloodline again. It's cool.
Yeah, and I mean, you think about Kevin Owens. He said last night on SmackDown he's been battling the Bloodline for 4 years. 4 years.
4 years. It's so great.
And they still, like, no one has an answer to the Bloodline. Cody thought he took care of the Bloodline.
And then right? Solo pinned him.
Exactly.
Right. I know, and I'm kind of like, there's some people who think Roman will be back at SummerSlam, and it's possible.
Sure.
But I kind of feel like it'll be a little while before Roman comes back. I kind of feel like...
I think we got to get Rock Cody before Roman comes back.
Oh, so you think it might be all the way to... Because I don't think we're getting Rock Cody until WrestleMania if we get Rock Cody. So that would mean Roman wouldn't come back until after WrestleMania? He'll be back.
Yeah, before then.
I feel like they'll do Rock Cody and then Roman and the new Bloodline simultaneously. And then work the kinks out after.
Does Jay play into all? I mean, he has to.
I think he will.
Yeah.
I think he will. I think and Jimmy's still got to come back. SummerSlam might be when Jimmy comes back.
Okay.
Right? It's possible. And then maybe Roman comes back like at Survivor Series or something like that. I don't know.
Does the Bloodline get even stronger? Are there new members to be added to the Bloodline?
The current Bloodline, I think, will get stronger. I think that's more crucial than like the stuff with The Rock. Because the stuff with The Rock is going to be the stuff with The Rock. But I think what's crucial is that the Bloodline gets to a place where when Roman does come back, it's a task to beat the Bloodline. Mm-hmm. And in order for it to be a task to beat the Bloodline, we have to see them not being beaten a lot, which takes time. And I think that's a road that we're finally on now with Jacob and what Jacob did.
I'm excited for it.
I'm excited too. I'm excited that you joined here once again. Megan, is there any direction you want to send people in or any thought after Money in the Bank that you want to leave people with?
I'm just looking at my notebook right now.
Making sure you covered it all?
I think we covered it all. I'm excited. I'm excited for Monday when you take a deep analytical dive into all of the things.
Right. This was the feelings. I hope you enjoyed us all getting our feelings out together. We'll see you Monday for another episode of Notsam Wrestling. Don't forget to go to notsam.com. 2 very important links at notsam.com. One is the store. It's only open for another week and change, if that, by the time you're watching this. The Notsam store is back open. There's new Notsam Wrestling merch, limited time only. And then the store shuts and the merch is no longer available. So if you're thinking about it at all, put that order in now and scoop it up. And while you're scooping things up, Come out to Cleveland Thursday, August 4th. That's the Thursday before SummerSlam. Be there at Hilarities. Ticket link is now at notsam.com. Hopefully we'll see you there. And thanks, Megan.
Thanks, Sam.
See you later.
Bye.